Okay. People are still jumping on, but we have quite a few. So I'm going to start and others can join as they're able. So first of all, I want to thank you for joining this crazy virtual information evening that we love to have on site in our beautiful building with people and food and everything else. And so we apologize for not being able to do so, but we didn't want to go without an event either. So thank you for taking some time tonight. This first session, you're going to be able to speak and hear from Erin Johnson, who is our principal of the upper school, which is grades K through, not K through, 6 through 12. And Janelle Mellgren, if she's on, I'm not seeing her yet, but if she, oh, there she is, I do see her. She is the principal of the School of Kindergarten, well, School of Grammar, but kindergarten through 5th grade. We've also got Missy Madigan, who is our instructional coach. She is our classical coordinator, and hopefully she will jump in the areas that she sees fit as well. And I don't see IIO, but we have a student. I believe IIO is, she's either in 11th or 12th grade this year, and she's been at our school for a very long time, first grade, maybe even kindergarten. And she typically joins these sessions as well so that you can hear some things from a student perspective. So I'm going, oh, and the one thing is we need to remember that there is going to be a session right after this one, which you're able to and welcome to join. And that's going to be, there's 2 parents. One parent has students in the younger grades, and the other parent has students in the upper grades. And then there's also a senior, and maybe IIO will join that one too. So we'll have to end this one right on time so that we can jump over to the other one. So I'm going to let those that I mentioned go ahead and introduce themselves, and I'll just kind of sit back.
Thanks, Janice. As she mentioned, my name is Erin Johnson. I am the principal for the Schools of Logic and Rhetoric. I have been with Eagle Ridge Academy a very long time. I started my career with Eagle Ridge when it opened in 2004. So I have been a teacher both in the School of Logic, so our middle school program, and in the School of Rhetoric, our high school program. I taught humanities for a number of years, teaching ancient Greek and Roman history and literature. The other way, though, that I am involved with Eagle Ridge is the fact that I am the mother of 3 sons, and they all attend Eagle Ridge Academy, one in each school. I have one in 2nd grade, one in 6th grade, and one in 9th grade. So I also have the parent perspective and watching my students or my children go through our program. And so I have that perspective that I'm happy to share with you as well tonight. When I see Ayayo has joined us, I will allow her to introduce us, but she is a junior this year and she has been a wonderful asset to have on these calls. I will let Janelle introduce herself.
There we go. Too many Zoom calls today. IAO has a sibling who's in School of Grammar, so it's a nice connection that way as well. My name is Janelle Milgren, and I am the principal for the School of Grammar, which, as Ms. Gerhardt said, is the kindergarten through 5th grade students. Appreciate you taking a little time to visit with us tonight and get to know a little bit about Eagle Ridge Academy. Many of you submitted some questions in advance, so we're going to work on answering those a bit, and Ms. Madigan will be able to explain that process a little more. I joined, this is my 4th year now at Eagle Ridge Academy. I spent about 10 years as a classroom teacher both in the traditional school system as well as the charter school system. This is my 4th charter school that I've been a part of. 2nd charter school I've been in administration with, and yeah, it's been a really good 4 years. This year in particular has been much different, as I'm sure you can each say for yourselves as well, but we have learned how to take our strengths and translate them for our students and families online, and to step back and be learners ourselves, which is actually extremely classical. So it has sort of forced us into a position of learning that has been good for us. So we're excited to talk to you a little bit about our school, and I'm going to turn it over to Miss Madigan so you can get to know her a little bit.
Thanks, Janelle. So thank you, Janice, for kind of getting things queued up here. I am Missy Madigan. I am the K-12 instructional coach and classical coordinator. Like Erin, I also have 3 sons. Only 2 of them are school aged. So I currently have a 4th grader and a 2nd grader. This is my 12th year at Eagle Ridge. I was there prior to the School of Grammar program opening back in 2010 as a long-term science middle school substitute. Absolutely fell in love from day one, and this is definitely my home. I had then taught 4th grade for about 7 years before stepping into my current position. Have loved every minute of it. Really excited to show you the ways that Eagle Ridge will become not only a school of choice, but a family for you here as well. I don't see a Yayo yet, although we all have a connection because I had a Yayo as a 4th grader, so she's pretty popular around here. I'm just going to go ahead and kick us off. As Janelle mentioned, thank you to those of you who submitted questions. We will certainly start with those. If as we are explaining things, other questions come up, feel free to put those in the chat and we will certainly address those ones as well. We want to make sure that we give you as much information so that you can make an informed decision. So we're going to start with a question that we always get. Can you suggest how different or similar Eagle Ridge is to a public school? So what does that experience really look like? Again, a common question regardless of if you have a kindergartner, a 6th grader, or an 11th grader. I think one of the main differences that you will see is although our students have subjects, although they have courses that they attend, it's really a learning program together. And that classical model means that we have interdisciplinary connections between and among subjects. We like to think of our curriculum and our educational program as less like a chest of drawers and more like a web of learning. So one example of that from the School of Grammar perspective is as a 4th grade teacher, I'll give you one of my prized, treasured memories. In 4th grade, one of the units we studied was Europe in the Middle Ages. So as a classical school, using history as the framework to build upon other learning. So we were learning about knights, we were learning about castles. You can imagine the joy of your students, those children in that learning, reading King Arthur, reading Robin Hood, really getting into the literature at that time. But it wasn't just in my classroom. They were also in their art classes learning about illuminated letters, learning about the initial beginnings of how books were created. In their music courses, they were studying Gregorian chants and the early composers, even Hildegard von Bingen being one that was part of their initial conversation there as well. So as you see, it's not just subject to subject. It's when all of that can ebb and flow together that students really get the biggest learning experience from that. It was always one of my favorite things, and maybe Yael will share this as well. When I went to pick up my students from music class, I'm like, did you know that we learned about this? Yeah, absolutely, because that's the intentionality that we bring toward sequencing and spiraling our curriculum together. That then continues into not only through our School of Logic and the interconnected learning that they have there, but also is part of our School of Rhetoric programming too. So they take a couple sweeps through the historical time frame, and then in the School of Rhetoric, which would be your traditional high school program, they take a 2-hour course called Humanities, which is the combination of both literature and history combined into one class. We use a lot of Socratic seminar, a lot of really deep discussion that helps support our students as they're learning there. So if you want to know what's the main difference, it's the interconnected learning that certainly helps our students to grow and to achieve.
Yeah, I think I'm going just from a School of Grammar perspective. And I can kind of just add to that a little bit what Miss Madigan was talking about. I think a helpful way to think about it sometimes is we really do provide a liberal arts education starting in kindergarten, because we are teaching history, we're teaching science, they receive physical education, Latin instruction, art instruction, music instruction, in addition to reading instruction, literature, reading good literature, as Miss Madigan mentioned, along with grammar and all of those things. And there are some schools, traditional schools, who do all of that, but it's not as common in my experience. So I do think that that would be one difference that you would notice. It's just kind of that very well-rounded liberal arts education that starts at a very young age. So they get exposed to a lot of really great content that they're very excited to learn. I taught second grade using core knowledge, which is the one of our curriculum around here. And I always was surprised by how much they embrace learning some really like deep historical concepts. And I'm a history nerd too. So that was one of my favorites to teach them as well. But so that's one thing. Also, I'm going to just take a couple of questions that were submitted ahead of time. One that is a couple that kind of go together that are related to our current situation, which is our pandemic learning that's happening here. Someone had asked, how are we maintaining education quality and safety during the pandemic time and then moving forward? So we worked with a consultant and with a series of work groups this summer, which included administration representatives, parent representatives, and staff representatives who wished to volunteer for that. And we focused on different areas of our learning and school safety and operational things, all the things it takes to make a school work so that the students can learn. And we put together a plan, which we entered the year in. I'm not going to go into detail on it because it's quite long, but it is on our website, so you're always welcome to take a peek at it. That did include a safety plan. And we worked with an outside consultant on that, someone who just knows more about a lot of things related to keeping places safe. We have, so far, we've had a really good plan in place, which we have followed. We haven't had any spread within our building of COVID-19. We have had a few cases that needed to quarantine, but no spread. And we hear from our community consultant and things that comparatively, ours is pretty minor whenever we call. It feels big to us. Everything feels big to us, but so we've had very good success with safety. We have been in distance learning right now, but we are working to transition our kindergarten through second grade students back to in-person learning in just a week and a couple of days. And then our third through fifth graders a couple of weeks after that, so who wish to come back. One of the components that I feel really good about that we've had in place this year, which addresses another question sent in, was what about if families want them to attend Eagle Ridge, but they really do want that distance learning option? That is always an option. The governor mandated that it would be, so I think that's true at any school, but certainly it is here. Currently, our School of Grammar students, we have 828 students total, K through 5. And right now we have about 600, a little over 600 who have selected distance learning. And so we certainly, we have our teachers assigned to teach those classes, and they get to stay with their classes this year. And that gets to the quality of education. I'm not going to say that we provided exactly the same level of quality that we have in each previous year, because I think that would be untrue. But we certainly have really worked very hard to stay as true to that as possible, because we aren't a school that uses technology very much in the past years. So it was a very big learning curve for our teachers as well as our students and families, because we had to pick up technology pretty quickly. But a core kind of belief at our school here is that technology is good, but it isn't the thing. It should serve to support the learning and the classical modality that we want to instruct the kids and the content that we want to expose them to. Hi, Yayo. So this has been, that's been an attitude that has served us well because we've had a need to utilize technology very much more and differently, but we've been able to apply our rich content and just learn how to deliver it better. Our teachers are really starting to pick up steam, and I've been in a lot of classrooms the last few days, and there's a lot of really great things going on. So we are ramping our way back up to our quality, and we'll be prepared for however things look for us next year. I feel very confident about our distance programming for students and families who want to learn from home, as well as the in-person, which is our kind of bread and butter from previous years. So I am going to hand things back to Mrs. Johnson, because I think we want to introduce our student ambassador. And then I also think that Ms. Johnson might take a couple of questions related to high school, School of Logic and Rhetoric.
Yep, there are some questions that are coming through, but before I answer those, I do want to introduce our student ambassador who was able to join us. Ayayo Orwa has been with us since School of Grammar. Can you take a minute and just introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, I'm Ayayo. I've been here since first grade. I am a junior in high school right now, and I have a brother currently in 5th grade, so still in the School of Grammar. And I've participated in sports, student government, music at Eagle Ridge Academy, and drama. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So there are some questions that I see coming through the chat and some that were provided to us earlier that I will ask Ayayo to answer, because when it comes to things like her experience doing homework and the amount of time it takes and things like that, she is going to be obviously the one who is hitting the ground with that one currently. I can sure tell you what I witnessed with my own children, and so I can provide that parent perspective. What I do see coming through here relates to our curriculum a little bit in terms of homework philosophy, what is taught and related to different history. If we can make sure everybody is muted, that would be great. Thank you. When we're looking at, in particular, history, we use in the K through 8 program something that's called core knowledge sequence. And that allows our students the ability to have multiple exposures to history throughout their time as an Eagle Ridge Academy student. So what I mean by that is, for example, as a teacher of ancient Greek and Roman history and literature, I was able to talk to my students who had been in our K through 8 program and fall back on the information that they had learned at earlier grades. So they start covering some of those things in kindergarten, and then they get a little bit of it in 2nd and 3rd grade, and then they get it again in 6th grade. And every time they are exposed to that material, they're able to go a little bit deeper and investigate a little bit more. And so by the time they come into high school, they have a very solid foundation of history, because they've been exposed to world history multiple times throughout their career as a K through 8 student. And when they get into the 9 through 12 program, our School of Rhetoric, they are able to read primary sources that are incredibly in-depth and incredibly challenging, and understand those because they have that solid foundation that has been given to them throughout the course of their K-8 time. That's not to say if your child starts in the School of Logic in 6th, 7th, or 8th grade that they're not going to have exposure to that, or that it won't be as good, because the teachers do fall back on that. They review some of that information and then they're able to go deeply. But it's that multiple repeated exposure that students have that really solidify their long-term memory and their long-term learning. Looking at homework philosophy for middle and high school students, we do, our teachers do give homework regularly. What we really kind of aim for is that students on average would have about 2 hours of homework a night. Sometimes it might be a little bit more, sometimes it might be a little bit less. Some of that is always going to be reading for their English or their humanities course. And then there's homework that's kind of spread throughout. Ayayo, do you want to speak to that for a moment?
Yeah, we do get, obviously we read from humanities, but everything else, teachers are very accepting of if you have a special situation and, you know, and you need to accommodate for homework. And also with class choices is a big thing. So with the level of math that you're in or the level of Latin, they'll place you in classes that you can handle, and you can choose to take electives that are harder or that are easier so that the work isn't too much.
And yeah, you hit on a couple of things about different electives that we have. We have the courses that a typical student at a particular grade would be registered for, but once they get into the School of Rhetoric program, there are other options for other courses that they can take. They can take a more in-depth look at things like it within the arts, ceramics, 2D art, AP offerings for those things. We have AP courses that students are able to register for. We have things like psychology that students can take. So there are some things that are required for graduation, and then there's room for electives to happen, including things like art and music for our students. And I do see a question about needing to re-register for the School of Rhetoric. If you have a student who is currently in the School of Logic, no, you do not need to re-register. You would only need to put in an application for registration for the School of Rhetoric if you are not currently enrolled at Eagle Ridge Academy.
Erin, I'm going to take some of those questions about the math curriculum.
Sure.
So I'll kind of talk just in general about the K-12, kind of the way that we work through that. One of the two of the common curriculum that you will see in many classical schools is either a Saxon math approach or a Singapore math approach. And we use the Saxon math, but we actually use the best of both, which is, I think, what makes us so unique and then helps our students to grow as much as they do. So what that means is we are starting our students, just as Yayo said, we look at those placement assessments and really know where are our students and how do we continue to both support them in building their math confidence, but also pushing them to a little bit more of a challenge. One thing that we've spent quite a bit of time and a number of years as teacher professional development is moving beyond, I can speak for myself, moving beyond, like when we were learning, it was more the calculations, like you can learn how the algorithm of multiplication works, but we need to move beyond that into the concept of why numbers work the way they do. And starting that from a very early age, right in kindergarten, we teach a lot about numeracy. Why does place value work the way it does? Why are fractions built the way they do? So that solid foundation of mathematical conceptual understanding is strong and carries our students into more advanced classes. So we offer all of the courses all the way through. There are some students who are advanced, and as assessments, we look at those. With our students, as they work through our standard progression, will be on track to meet graduation requirements as outlined by both Eagle Ridge and the state of Minnesota.
All right, I think I might take a couple more that way. Again, just to build a little bit up what Miss Madigan was saying, she was talking, I got a little distracted by checking my question board over there, so excuse me. Our math, that work that we have done over the last couple of years, really focusing on that deep conceptual knowledge, starting in elementary school, has been happening over the last couple of years, and some evidence that I have received as a principal that is paying good dividends is across the country, early data showed that math was going to be the biggest gap area for students because of this pandemic and just the delay and the disruption to the learning that occurred. And so we were anticipating, we develop 3 times a year, we administer a test to test the students on the standards that we've taught to date and determine, have they learned what we wanted them to learn? If not, how are we going to go back and reteach? If yes, then, what are we going to do with that information? And when we looked at our first round of data this year, I actually had to look at it a couple of times. I was quite surprised. Our math data was within just a few percentage points of where it had been in previous years. And that was across through middle school, I believe, too, Ms. Johnson, if I'm remembering correctly. So we were surprised because we were anticipating a larger a gap, that the percentage would not be as high just because of all of the early research that was out there. So I think that means that that deep understanding serves us well, because if you understand how it works, it's easier to pick back up and learn those algorithms. If the conceptual understanding isn't there in the first place, that is like more work that needs to be done before you can do that. So that has been reassuring to me. We'll see how our next round comes out. We're not just taking that and running with it, but it's a good early indication of the good work our teachers have done. I think I have answered most of the questions that have been submitted in advance, but I think there is, someone took the gifted and talented, so that's good. There was a question related to allergies that was submitted in advance. That's very specific to every student. We are very fortunate that we have a school nurse on site, and she's amazing. So she interfaces with all of our families if they have any medication or ongoing health concerns or anything like that. So that does include allergies. And then she speaks with the families and finds out what's needed. And then she will work with the relevant teachers and staff so that we can accommodate that. We do have students with allergies to varying degrees. So that can be a very individual answer to that question. So just in general, if you are enter the lottery and gain a place and decide to come and join us here, which we hope that you will, then we will definitely put you in touch with Miss Coughlin, who's our school nurse, and she kind of is the start to that process to ensure that we are she knows more about the medical side, and we want to know about the medical side, so we are making all the right decisions. And so we are very happy to have her on board. I think I addressed in-person instruction. We do place a high priority on it, however, not at the risk of compromising safety. So we are moving toward it as we're able. We have brought back certain groups of students who just needed it a little more. We offered that to some families. But we are kind of want to do both. We do offer in a typical school year aftercare programming. That's our Eagles net. Yep. And
layer.
Yeah, layer or TEL programming. We are not currently offering that in this model right now, just because of pandemic times, but we do typically offer after school care, which is help with homework completion, some time to just play, have snacks, that type of thing after school. And I believe that goes from 3:30 to 5:30.
It runs from 3 o'clock until 6.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, a parent who sometimes takes advantage of it right there. All right, I think I'm going to toss it back to Ms. Johnson.
I have a few questions that have come up in relation to some of the courses that we have available in terms of AP, along with some extracurricular questions, things that we offer. So Ayayo, please feel free to jump in at any time as I'm going through this, and maybe you can speak a little bit to the clubs and activities that you have been a part of while you're here. In the chat here, we did have some information shared that we have a very, very robust chess club and robotics club those are two of our most widely used clubs after school. We also have theater, drama. We have a variety of different athletics available, both at the JV and varsity level for our older students, as well as a Griffin Youth Sports program that is available for our K-5 students, or K-6 in some cases. We also have, one of the questions was, is there any club that can help students to improve their debate skills? Yes, we have a mock trial team that does quite well. And so we welcome students to participate in that as well. When it comes to things like athletics, we offer cross country, soccer, basketball, track and field. We've had some opportunities to offer baseball when there's been enough interest. We've had a variety of those over the course of the last several years, and we are continuing to add as we are able. And those programs are run by Mr. Chris Babler, who is our athletic and activities director. When it comes to courses like AP, we do offer courses in AP biology, AP chemistry, AP physics, calculus, art courses. What other ones am I missing, AIO? art history,
honors Latin.
honors Latin. So there are a lot of upper level courses that can work toward college credit or scores within their AP tests that will help them with their college courses or testing into higher level courses as they graduate from Eagle Ridge and move into college. One of the questions that then relates to this too is what kind of stats do we have on Eagle Ridge students in college? So just to kind of give you an idea, these are pretty typical, but I'm going to use our last year's class as the most recent data that we have. We had 75% of our graduates attend a four-year college, 15% graduates attended two-year college. We had 3% who joined the military. And then of those students who were at college, we had 45% of them enroll at out-of-state colleges. We do still have students who then, of course, like to come back and share with us their stories about college and how things have gone for them once they have gone through Eagle Ridge Academy. As a high school teacher for a number of years, I was a high school teacher at Eagle Ridge for over 10 years. And so one of my favorite things is being able to keep in contact with some students who I had when I was their teacher in 9th grade. And there are several that I still keep in contact with. In fact, I'm going to be working with one of them next week, actually two of them next week. So I oftentimes hear from them about their experiences and how well prepared they really truly felt they were and how more prepared they thought they were than their roommates or their friends that they made at college. I know Miss Madigan also has a story that she'd like to share.
Absolutely. I was just putting together some more, parent education. That's something that we offer for parents as well. This is new, and we want to make sure that you understand the choice that you're making here. And I preface that because I had the opportunity to set up some of that learning for our both current and prospective families last spring. And part of that was understanding the role of technology in a classical education. Like how does the STEM programming, how is that similar or different to classical education? And we wanted to seek to clarify some of those questions. And with that came the opportunity to sit down and have a little conversation with a past student who she had enrolled in the University of Minnesota in a psychology program. So I wanted to know more about her experience. So I asked her, from coming from a classical school and not having specific STEM courses, without having specific training or classes or anything like that, how did she see herself both set up for or really lacking in any of those skills moving forward? And what she provided was, the training, and not the training, the environment, the learning environment that we provide for our students to think, question, wonder, and find joy in the learning. That's what's going to stand out for them. She could learn everything about coding in a step-by-step direction manual. She didn't need somebody next to her supporting her through that. So she didn't feel disadvantaged at all based on the liberal arts education that she had. And found that really set her up well for proceeding forward.
Yeah, I just wanted to say we also, to respond to the AP classes part in terms of STEM, like you think as a classical school, those resources aren't there as much, but we do have AP Bio, AP Physics, and even AP Computer Science. So those resources are definitely there if you choose them. And even if you don't choose the AP classes, we do require biochemistry and physics, so you will definitely be covered. There was also another question in the chat, I think, about how does the school respond to events in the US? And actually, I just want to talk about that because I'm a junior right now and we're studying the Constitution. And I think we also study it in 8th grade at Eagle Ridge. And that's mostly your humanities teacher. So for example, we spent the first 10 minutes of class today talking about what happened at the Capitol. Also in terms of racial issues, there's not a lot, but we have a social justice club and staff members who would handle that stuff if it would come up. But yes, we do have STEM-like courses, like I've taken AP Physics, AP Bio, AP Calculus, and we also we have offered AP Computer Science as well. So.
Could you also speak to your involvement in other types of activities and clubs and things like that after school too, and how you are able to balance that with your student responsibilities?
Yes. I've done track and I've done drama, and I think generally the attitude there is if you're a student athlete, student comes before athlete. So it definitely has not taken a toll on my grades or my schoolwork or any of that, because we as Eagle Ridge are, we put your academic learning comes first. But I think it's just been a really nice opportunity as a smaller school as well to be able to go farther at a younger age, just because we're not a huge school with a huge, with too many people that we can't fit everyone on a team. As a 7th grader, I was able to do more activities, I think, than I would at a larger school. But I think there's a lot of community as well. And even with our mock trial team, they've won their first regional meet today, by the way. They're they're very close as well. In a small school, they're like a little family. So I think every team and every club is just very close, which is the biggest difference that I see at Eagle Ridge compared to other schools.
Yeah, I see a class size question, and that's a quick and easy answer, so I'll jump in with that. Although I could listen to IAO all day. I love when we do these. I always enjoy when she is joining us because I love hearing about the learning from her perspective. You've been here way longer than I have, so I learn a lot from you. At School of Grammar, in a typical year, we limit our class sizes to 23. This year's a little different because we allow families to choose distance learning at any time. So then we can't control the numbers from the school side. That's just whatever it shakes out to be. So we do try to keep them for certainly under 30. Right around 25, I think, is about our average for distance learning this year, but in a typical year, it's 23 students per class. When you move up into the middle school level, I believe it's 25 approximately, Ms. Johnson. And then above that would be around that size, a little less, a little more, depending on the classes that they choose to enroll in, is my understanding. Yeah. I just want to come back to something that IAO talked about too, just regarding like what's going on in our country right now and how we're addressing that. And we don't have magical answers, I guess I would say, but we certainly search for them and try to keep our eyes open and are aware. And our students in the building, especially our high school students, I think are a good resource for us for that. And our classical background and the way that we approach things, like Ms. Madigan mentioned before, a Socratic seminar and things like that, does encourage civil discourse. We work on teaching something called habits of discussion to our students starting in about 2nd, 3rd grade and above, which teaches them to, you listen to people. You can agree or disagree. That is a real conversational, we're humans. That's what happens with ideas and beliefs. But you can also build on others' ideas. You can agree or disagree in a respectful fashion. So we start teaching them how to listen to one another first and how to have respectful conversations to kind of build up to those Socratic seminars, because deep ideas and even sometimes not fun things to talk about, not fun things in history, things that happen in life need to be talked about, but listening and learning how to engage in good discussion about that is so important. And so we have that in place for us. And I see a question about a religious affiliation, which is probably a good one because I think that was pre-submitted too. We are not a religiously affiliated school. We are a public school, publicly funded. So we do learn about different religions as part of our history learning, and it will be just some of the literature that is read will reference that depending on the literature. So there are discussions and things around that, but we are not teaching the religion. We are teaching about the religion, and we teach about many different religions so that that knowledge base can be broad for our students. Anything to add to any of that, IAO?
I think you pretty much covered it. Yes, we do look at religious texts a lot. Like we've looked at beginning parts of the Bible and humanities, and Eastern thought is required, and you have to study Buddhism and Hinduism in Eastern thought. But it's more of from an observatory standpoint, just to learn about different groups of people, and it's not really taught as truth or teaching that religion. So yeah, and it's, as she said, it's multiple: Hinduism, Buddhism, Judaism, Christianity. So
And one of the things that our teachers really do strive to do is to teach students how to think, not what to think, and engaging in those conversations and pondering those questions and digging into the text. So it really comes down to being about how to think, how to find what you're looking for, how to have those conversations, not what to think. Ms. Gerhart, I know that you had a couple minutes you wanted to just briefly chat about the lottery, and I know we're getting close, so I want to allow you that time.
Oh my, we are getting close. Yes. So basically, applications are due if you have not completed one yet by January 15th. So we take apps from October 1 to January 15th. No preference is given to when you have completed them. Nobody gets any, if they've already done it, they won't have any advantage over you. So then we will hold the lottery this year. We are just working out what that's going to look like since we can't do it in person. It will probably virtual, sharing my screen or something like that. And I will get more of that information out as we make those final determinations. So basically, our openings tend to be in grades 8 through 12. If you have a 9th grader, you will receive an enrollment offer. I can guarantee that. We'll receive an enrollment offer on February 1st. Probably 8th grade as well. 7th grade, there's not typically as many people that apply, but in grades K through 6, we typically receive quite a few applications for each of those grades. We do not know how many openings we're going to have in K through 6 because we have, well, in 1st through 6th, because we have to assume our kindergartners are moving to 1st, our 4th graders are moving to 5th. And until we begin to hear from parents, which they don't like to tell us too soon, because if they give up their spot, they've lost it and they're not going to get it back. So people sit kind of in a holding pattern with their wait list number, which you'll be notified of February 1st. And then as the openings occur, I communicate with you via phone and email. Now, we do give preference to siblings that have students that have siblings currently attending Eagle Ridge Academy. So we actually hold 2 separate lotteries. One's for the applicants that indicated they have a student currently attending, and then there's the applicants that don't have siblings. So that sibling list sits on top of the, basically you call it the general list. So if I have 10 openings in 1st grade and I've got 12 siblings, those first 10 of the 12 siblings will be offered. If I have a grade where there's only, I have 10 spots open and there's only 1 sibling, then we're going to get into the general list. We also have to remember that everybody that applies isn't always interested. So if you get 68 as a wait list number, it's not necessary. I mean, it could be a little bit less than that, but it's just, typically in grades 1 through 6, we do not lose many kids year to year. But this is a unique year. So we'll see how that's going to work. But the big piece is, another real quick thing is if you have twins, twins have separate, you apply for each of them, they are treated as separate individuals until one of them becomes enrolled. And then at that time, I take the other sibling, twin, whatever, and put them at the bottom of the sibling list. So rarely in grades, those younger grades they get in at the same time, but hopefully by the time school starts in August, we'll have been able to pick them up. Feel free to call me, email me. My information is on the website, and I'd be glad to talk with you about things. A lot of people want to know what their chances are. We always have those conversations, and if only I had a crystal ball. And I'm rooting for everybody. I wish we had spots for everyone, but that's kind of a topic that we have to talk about. And so, yeah. So is it time?
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We appreciate you taking some time out of your evening to join us. We hope that you had most of your questions answered. I do know that there's another session, and so we want to make sure you are able to get to that. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.